Welcome to the webinar. We are talking about how to put money into your pocket and grow your business. And we have an incredible guest today, my partner, Paul Croft of Croft Enterprises, Croft LLC, Croft Insurance Group, Emerald Life, JD Frost & Company. He's the new CEO of JD Frost & Company. And we have so many things going on. And I've been so excited about this webinar and being able to introduce Paul to our viewers, introduce Paul as the CEO of JD Frost & Company now. And I'm so glad that you're able to take some time and be on the webinar, Paul. Thanks a lot, man.
You're welcome, JD. Thanks for having me. I've been wanting to be on your webinar for a while now. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, hey, I just want to take some time and for you to kind of give us an overview of kind of where you've been and where you've come from and what made you start Croft Enterprises. What made you start a business and kind of this entrepreneur journey first, just to kind of share with viewers where you came from.
Yeah, that's great. I started Croft Enterprises in one of the worst economic environments, which is very interesting to start off our webinar this way because it reminds me a lot of where we're at today. It was December 1st, 2008, and there was a lot of gloom and doom in the stock market, and people, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was dropping 500-600 points a day. Matter of fact, I recently looked at this, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average went as low as, I believe it was around 7,800 points, maybe right around 8,000 points. So that's how low things got. And I thought to myself, when everybody else is panicking and, buying into what the media is telling them and what their parents might be telling them or their friends or the popular thing to do, I did the opposite. I thought to myself, I'm going to get involved in something that I know how to do really well, which was financial consulting and life insurance. And I'm going to turn inward in this time. And I'm going to just, I'm going to work my butt off and do this. And it was interesting, when I had made up my mind to do this, I was carrying a banker's box from my old financial planning firm. And I was in an elevator and I looked up at the elevator bank, and there was like a sign in that elevator bank talking about good things happen during bad times. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I no longer am employed. I just signed an office lease office lease for like $100,000 office lease, which worked out to be about $3,200 a month over a 4-year period. And then I signed a new apartment lease pretty much within the same day for $1,800 a month. And this was 12 years ago. So I had to make, the quick math on that would be 32 plus, that was, $5,000 out of pocket. And I didn't even know.
Before you even got paid.
Before I even got paid. I was like, I put on a white shirt and
hey, sorry to interrupt you, but now our rent's about 10 times that right now. You know that, right?
Oh yeah.
That's
our
nuts, isn't it?
No, isn't our rent $60,000 a month now?
It's right about there. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is more than 10x. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you say that like that. But no, so I was reading this article, and it said good things happen during bad times, and I read a little bit, and it was talking about the Great Depression, and I was like, chocolate chip cookies were invented during the Great Depression, and I was like, I like chocolate chip cookies. Like, that's awesome that someone was like sitting around thinking about making chocolate chip cookies during this bad time. So
right.
I don't know. I think like I hope that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are on this call. Um, you know, JD, I remember I told you when we were starting our partnership that there's really three types of entrepreneurs. There's the
Yes. Tell
true,
tell tell me about that.
yeah, there's the true entrepreneur who just isn't a normal breed of person. Like I said earlier on the call, when everybody's panicking, this person happens to be calm. Um, when the sun when the feels like the sun isn't going up, they're always reminded that the sun is going to rise in the east the next morning. Um, they're just different. Um, they're like a wild animal, like a rhinoceros. Then there's the entrepreneurial spirited person. This person's awesome. This is like a real estate agent that, you know, is killing it financially and professionally and personally. And, you know, is just like loves not having a boss, you know, has their own business, maybe has bought into like a franchise model with like Berkshire Hathaway or Coldwell Burnett Banker or Edina Realty or some of these different, or Keller Williams is another one. You know, this would be more of what I would call like an entrepreneurial spirited person. They love the spirit of an entrepreneur, but they're not a pure entrepreneur themselves. Okay. And
Right.
then there's the third one is the wantrepreneur. And the wantrepreneur is the person who wants to become an entrepreneur, but just doesn't really have the tools to become an entrepreneur. And the fascinating thing about a wantrepreneur is that if given the right tools, you know, it's hard to say for sure, but they may have the correct DNA to be a full-blown entrepreneur, but they've never given the opportunity or the tools to do this. Because to do this, what that means is there's no school out there that teaches this.
Well, there's some college classes about entrepreneurship, but I mean, there's nothing like the School of Hard Knocks, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
nothing that's teaching that.
yeah, I mean, Babson, right on the East Coast, has a really good entrepreneurship program. I've heard of them. You know, I've won an entrepreneurship award in Kansas City called the Kaufman Internship Award. Um, but you're right. Like, there's nothing you can, um, nothing teaches you than just, you know, putting your boots on and going to work every day.
And so, you know, what I've noticed a lot from working with you over the last 6 months, 7 months, and just as our partnership has grown, is your desire to take business owners and you kind of can classify them. You're one of your gifts is observing people, right? Like observing people and taking those business owners and being able to identify where they are in those different stages of the entrepreneurship, uh, of their entrepreneurship life. And you can kind of see like, hey, you're really a entrepreneur. What did you say the middle one was again?
An entrepreneurial spirited person.
Entrepreneurial spirited or a true entrepreneur, and you're able to kind of identify and help that person understand exactly where they are and then move them forward to that next level, whatever it takes. Because what I love about your story is you starting in '08. Like what has been one of the best things for me personally has been during this time of COVID and coronavirus, like you've been able to just remain calm the whole time, right? Like you know what that's like. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs yearn for that type of control or mentality. And I think that it can be learned. I think it can be learned, but you got to be around people that are acting like that have been there before.
That's awesome that you say that because I totally agree with you. I told some people at a lunch meeting in Minneapolis, Minnesota today that the new norm has to become uncomfortable. I wake up every day and I'm uncomfortable. Um, but here's the reality is I'm very comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, it's not
Yeah.
something that drives me crazy psychologically or makes me mad or angry or upset or emotional. It's just my norm that I live in.
Right.
Um,
You just know that that's what you're going to wake up in. I think that that's something that I've learned. And I think how, how do you teach somebody? How do you get comfortable with the uncomfortable? Like what do you think has happened in your life that's enabled you to be able to do that?
I mean, that's a really good question. And I mean, a few things are coming to mind, but man, I don't know. I mean, just probably goal setting, honestly. Like, that's the first thing that's coming to mind, is just writing down my goals every single day, every single year, like, I don't think you can get get somewhere in life if you're not going to write things down. Like, how, how is that possible? I just don't think that's possible. I think where the power in this comes is like what you said earlier, JD. I was freaking out back in 2008 about paying $5,000 a month for rent payments. And like you just pointed out, today the rent payments are $60,000 a month. And I don't even think about it the same way that I used to think about it at $5,000.
Right.
But I'm not the same decision maker that I was when I was, you know, I'm 39 years old today. I wasn't the same decision maker when I was, um, you know, at that time, I guess I'd be 27 years old.
Right. And I think that a part of it that I see in you is your one of your first steps is just kind of acceptance of where you are and like what the situation is. I mean, to be able to overcome some of those obstacles, to be able to kind of to be able to get comfortable with that uncomfortability is like you just accept it. You're like, this is kind of the way it is. And
Right.
one of my favorite things that I hear you say is, dude, what's the alternative?
Oh yeah.
You know, like that's a good point, you know, and I think
Yeah.
that that's what we try to help our clients with.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The alternative would be, I wish I had like an outfit to put on, but I'd be like, hey JD, I'm here. You know, how can I take your order? I'd probably be barista. Do you want the frappuccino latte or the skinny free, almond milk latte? What do you want?
Right,
And my
right.
God, like, there is no alternative. I mean, when you get to this level that you and I are at right now, in the, this is something that people should write down if they're watching this. All in. It's that
All
easy.
in.
Either you're all in or you're not. And people can tell. You can say, I'm all in. Bullshit, you're not. People will know if you're all in or not.
And
And
and to get to that true entrepreneurship, you got to be all in.
100% all in. And you gotta never quit. Because if you never quit, you're never a failure. And
Yep.
that's something that's also, but going back to that journaling or writing things down, like, I look at things like back in my notes from 1 year ago that I was really preaching to my sales team that I wanted to do $100,000 in revenue in a week. And I was like, man, I must be crazy. I must be like Howard Hughes out here, just thinking like, just maybe I'm the odd guy out. And that very well could be, but I'm just like, you know, this is nuts. Like, why can't we hit $100,000 a week with our talented sales force? Like, this is stupid. Why this isn't working? And I sat there with Josh Lund, one of our national sales director, and I would talk to him about this. Like, why can't we get there? And he'd be like, we can get there, and encouraging, and and then there's times where um, we would, maybe we got to do, maybe 75,000 instead of 100,000 in a week. And long story short, JD, it was about 2 weeks ago, just an average Thursday. It was cool. I called my dad about this, and I talked to my dad about this because sometimes it's hard to connect with people when you are an entrepreneur, and that's why, JD, it's just like you said, it's so crucial. It's everything to get around people that think like you do and that act like you do and believe
Yep.
like you do and have the courage like you do, because it's a lonely world otherwise if you can't find people like that. And they're out there. Turn on Instagram and watch some people. I mean, Grant Cardone is one of them. That's he's an entrepreneur, period. So JD Frost is an entrepreneur, period.
Hey,
So
that's how you and I met.
yeah, exactly. um, but yeah, I was going somewhere with that comment. That what I was saying is, I called my dad on this note that last week, it was a week ago, I think, just a week ago tomorrow, just a normal Thursday, nothing special about that Thursday. We didn't have 15, 20 deals lined up on our calendar, nothing, no cherry picking, anything like that. At the end of the day, we called each other with our results, and it was $89,000 of deposits in a day. And I thought to myself, man, I shot too small. I was thinking we should do $100,000 a week, and now we're doing close to $100,000 in a day. And that is really powerful, because those are the moments that you need in your life. That's like, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad day. Well, you got to realize, like, with the snap of the fingers, the next day could be your $89,000 day. And if you're
Yep.
not there to show up that day, you're going to miss out.
And you got to keep showing up and doing those same things. What produced that $89,000 that day? Like how, part of this webinar is called How to Put Money in Your Pocket. We're going to get into our strategy on how we do that. But this is how you put money in your pocket too, by doing those daily actions. That now we have the team, right? We have the team. That's part of the confidence that's created. And in your own business, if you can have those consistent actions that you're doing that have produced that big day for you. Maybe it's 5,000 for you. Maybe it's 1,000,000 for you. But whatever those actions are, they did produce that big goal for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you and I realized that day, was like, wow, we really have something here that can produce that amount of cash in one day. That's incredible. So how do we put that on repeat as much as possible, right?
Exactly.
Like that's the biggest thing. So one other question I want to ask you before we get into the jump method is, why the rhino?
Good story about that. I hired like a marketing professional back in like 2010, I believe it was. And she was like very adamant, like no animals in the marketing. We had this one theme where it was like a Southwestern theme, like an Arizona kind of vibe to it. And like some reds and oranges and some golds and that colors. We had this other theme that was like an ivory white with like a navy blue, and it kind of looked like a Coca-Cola theme. And I just called her and I kind of pushed back and I said, we're going with the rhino. And the reason why we're going with the rhino is I feel like a mantra, okay? Like a mantra or a connection with the rhino for 4 reasons. Number 1 is the word onward. I had gone through some bad personal relationships with people that kind of like, made me sad and upset, but these are real life things. Like, you need to get back on your feet. And I hope I'm speaking to someone out there right now that needs to get back on their feet, because I've been there before. And success is how you bounce back from things. And I would say that number 1 is just onward. Like, I remember, I think it's a Tupac song, but that you got to live your life out of the windshield and not out of the rear view mirror. Like, don't even think about what's in your past. It's gone. Like, look forward, onward. It's like, that's a powerful word. Then number two was gray. Because what JD Frost and I now help people with is we help people find clarity in the areas of gray. And the third area is protection. So I thought about that on a deeper level. And the rhinoceros has really tough skin, and I was like, well, maybe that is why. But really, no. It's the rhinoceros is smart. It protects its skin, its tough skin, from the hot sun in the desert. So it actually rolls around in the mud and gets dirty and protects its skin from getting sunburned. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I like the rhino. Rolls around in the mud every once in a while. And then the fourth thing is, I felt like a lot of people become successful and they change. They not necessarily like the clothes they wear, or maybe the shoes they wear, or like their watch that they have, or whatever. I'm talking about who they are as a human being changes. And I refer to that as a douchebag, because there's a lot of people that get really successful out there that turn and sell themselves short for things. And I would just say that that's the fourth connection I had to the rhinoceros. I'm from a town of originally from 3,700 people in northeastern part of Minnesota. And when I got to a certain level of success, I wanted to stay the same person that I was, whether I was living in Chicago, Illinois, or Two Harbors, Minnesota, or West Palm Beach, Florida. I want to be the same guy. Mm-hmm. And that's rare. So that's how I felt connected to the rhinoceros, that I was rare. So, and JD, we don't have to get into that, but what's crazy is now we have all these different verticals, which were actually created out of that mantra, which is, onward. We have a sports management brand, and we have, this
consulting,
business consulting firm, and the second one, gray, is really, JD Frost and Company, which is, even though we have a kind of an icy blue rhino represented because you're frosty, so it's kind of like a snowman, right? Yeah. And then, protection is really Emerald Life insurance. And then the fourth one is Rare, and Rare Enterprises. Man, we're doing some really good things. I should name drop. It was just his birthday yesterday too. Dan Loris, our chief marketing officer. Man, is he making some things come to life. We're doing 3D animation now. I mean, did you think we were going to be into the 3D animation business 5 months ago?
Right.
Selling 3D animation for $98,000 a project. That wasn't even on my radar. Was it on your radar?
No, not at all. Not at all. Everything that we're doing with Rare Enterprises, everything that we're doing with all these different verticals that fall into that. I just thought it would be interesting for those watching to understand, like, you see the rhino everywhere. You see the rhino in our name. You see it in each name and logo of every company. And there is some significant meaning there. And that is what is the meaning behind that from Paul's perspective. And I thought it'd be interesting to be able to talk about that and understand that. Yeah. But one of the most fun strategies that we're doing right now for clients, and that's the whole point of this webinar, is the JUMP method. And the JUMP method is a method that Paul Croft, it's his brainchild, and I'm going to take a little bit of credit, as we were on the phone together when we were talking about this strategy. I was like, we got to come up with some kind of a name. We have to, we got to call it something. Like we're forming this company, we're taking deductions, and then all of a sudden, poof, you get a refund. Well, I'm like, what are we going to call this? And Paul is like, man, we need to, let's call it JUMP. And I'm like, what? Like, that doesn't sound right. I was like, that's stupid. Like, I mean, that's stupid. Like, we don't need to call it jump. Like, what does that even mean? And then like we kind of kept the conversation going. And this is how partnerships work, right? Like you kind of keep talking through it and everything. And I'm like, wait a second, wait a second. I'm like, okay, jump. Like you got to take a leap. Like you have to take a chance in entrepreneurship sometimes. You have to take a chance to start a business. And so jump method stands for justified actual business expenses, utilize the tax code effectively, maximize deductions, and protect yourself from the IRS audit. And so when we were discussing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, this, like, yes, jump. That's it. That's what it should be, the jump method. And so what we're able to do for our clients is incredible. And it's changing people's lives. And so how in the world, Paul, did you originally come up with this strategy? Like, where did this come from? I mean, did it have to deal with, sometimes we've talked about that Croft Enterprises was the entrepreneur's back office. What was your motivation in creating this strategy?
Yeah, I mean, it's best policy to always be honest. So, honestly, I was an entrepreneur. I was making, about $125,000, $150,000 a year, and that wasn't enough money to pay a staff person, have an office, live the kind of lifestyle I wanted to live. So unfortunately, I got behind on my income taxes a little bit, and I would buy a car. I was now making about $250,000 a year to go buy my first Maserati. And a guy I played hockey with called me and said, "Hey, you're approved for the car, but are you aware of the fact that you have a tax lien against you?" And I went, "No, that's news to me. I knew the IRS was sending me letters, but I didn't know they had originally filed it." And what happened was I got in August of 2015, I got an IRS tax lien for $32,000. There was interest, a ton of interest that piled on it, like $8,000 of interest. So it's like just
Oh
over
yeah,
20,000.
that would have increased quite a bit.
Yeah, and I told myself that, like, I'm a financial professional. I can't be going out looking people in the eyes and having confidence, real confidence, when I owe the IRS $40,000. Like, this isn't gonna work. So I went and took a walk by a river in Minnesota called the Mississippi River, and no, I wasn't gonna jump in the river, but I was gonna do some thinking by the river. So I thought to myself, gosh, you know how passionate I am of a business owner and I paused and I said, how many other passionate, successful business owners are going to have to close their doors or go out of business because of their taxes? Because either A, they got bad advice, B, they have an accountant that doesn't have the courage to stick up to the IRS or listen to him or her, and C, they just don't know what they don't know. I love saying that. Like, people don't know what they don't know, because it's so true. And a light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, really need to learn this. So I was able to learn this business and then apply it to my own life. I was able to amend my tax returns with missed business expenses. I sold a piece of real estate that I owned and made a little bit of money. And I said, this is embarrassing. I moved to the Grand Cayman Islands for a couple months, and I started to reassess my life. And recently, I told this story to um, my mom and dad, my in-laws, but I don't consider them like my in-laws. They're my mom and dad as well. And I said that I was snorkeling in the Grand Cayman Islands, and I saw all sorts of different types of creatures in the ocean and on the ocean floor. And it was some very serene time in my life that I remember. It was just like, sometimes we care so much about what other people think of us, and we really forget what the real mission here is. And I remember I was just like swimming like 200 yards back to shore in the Grand Cayman Islands. And I just went, man, in the grand scheme of things, I'm so small. I'm tiny. And it really changed my life. Like, I just thought about it a lot differently. Like, no one cares about a lot of these things, but that really fueled me to really help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back to the United States in March of um, in 2016, and I was like rubbing my hands, like I'm ready to go to work. I got a nice tan. I'm refreshed. I just like met some billionaires in the Grand Cayman Islands. I'm just like let's go. And then I started going to work, and I mean, what's fascinating, JD, is that year 2016 gross revenues were like $265,000 for my entire company. And now look at that, 4 years later, our company did $7.1 million in 2019. I mean, if that's not the American dream of just growth and just perseverance and that didn't come overnight. That
Mm-hmm.
came over a lot of shit sandwiches over the years of eating some shit sandwiches that I didn't want to eat
Right.
anymore. So
And and so when you had your business and you had that tax problem, I mean, that's what we come across with a lot of clients, and the clients that owe back taxes. I was talking to a prospect today. They have over $100,000 tax bill from
yeah,
2018 that they're still trying to pay. They're trying to figure out. I had another one that I met on Monday that they have an additional $80,000 tax bill that's from 2008. Funny that you mentioned that you started your business in 2008. So this strategy, you were like, this just doesn't make sense. There's something that I've missed. And that's in the jump method. What we're able to do is to identify what's been missed and have conversations with clients, communicate with the clients. You were able to apply this to your own situation. And then you just basically decided to replicate that with other people. You're like, if I've had this problem, maybe everybody else has this problem.
well, I'll be honest with you. I exposed probably 3 to 5 people about it because I'm not that personality that just like, it worked once, like, here we go, let's go world. Like, no, it didn't go that way. Like,
Yeah.
I exposed about 5 people to it, and over some time, and then the IRS actually had some questions with me about what I had done on my tax returns, and I answered all their questions, and they actually the IRS actually um, put back, or it's called a reconciliation period you go through with the IRS. And, like I said, I answered all their questions, gave them all the information that they required. But I came out of that IRS audit with more money than when I had gone in there. And I'm telling you, that adds to the confidence level when I'm talking to somebody that I don't know, that has 3 or 4 kids and wants to kiss their kids at night or tuck them in and read them a story. They don't want to go to jail or do something wrong or unethical. So I've got to have some extreme confidence that compliance is a very big thing about what we do. And JD, I gotta um, you know take my hat off and give it to you on that, because when we were in our West Palm Beach, Florida office, I remember you care so much about your clients and being very compliant and educating yourself as a certified public accountant. And you asked me the question, you said, okay, so where does this confidence come? And I'm like, well, these are gray areas, and we protect the client like this. And I was explaining some things to you, and obviously, just for the sake of this webinar, they don't need to hear that exact dialogue, but you asked me, you said, what did you just say? And I said, well, according to the Rev Procs to the IRS, and you go, wait a minute, what'd you just say? I go, well, the Rev Procs, REVPROCS, and you go, stop, give me the number of the Rev Proc. And I think that was also where we were like really cementing our relationship, because you're like, hey, this guy, Paul Croft, yeah, he might be a little wild at times, but like, he's also like, he's backing up what he's saying with some facts and evidence of information here.
Right.
And then you go, give me the numbers. So I gave you the numbers, and then you started reading about the Rev Proc numbers, and you go, no. When we get on our Monday morning sales call, there's no more talk about gray areas. These are no longer gray
no
areas.
more loopholes. No more loopholes. That's what everybody uses, right? Yeah, like loopholes.
Yeah. So how you said it, you go, there's no more loopholes being used by Croft. These are areas that are supported with Rev Procs, IRS revenue procedures that are compliant and legal according to the purview of the IRS. And I mean, isn't that a great partnership when you have the courage that I do to do things that are a little bit outside of the box and a different way of thinking, and they have the compliance of someone like you, JD, and that will make sure that the T's are being crossed and the I's are being dotted? That's really powerful.
Right, and that's one thing that we talk about in the jump method is there's three things that you have to have, and I'd like you to kind of discuss this. It's desire, courage, and compliance, and that's just one thing that we've discovered even in the midst of talking with all of our clients. So why don't you elaborate a little bit on DCC?
Yeah, so like you said, D stands for desire. C stands for courage, and the most important C is compliance. So I talk about doing, when you do a business deal with someone, there's two things that happen. Number one is there's usually an exchange of emotion that happens, and then there's logic that happens. If there's emotion that happens, you can sell something, but there might be buyer's remorse from that client, okay? Or they might be reluctant to write a check for that, right? And all of your sales managers are always going to ask, where's the money? So to have a business deal be done, you need a combination of both emotion and logic. So when I came up with this, with desire, courage, and compliance, desire is really like, you have to have a desire that you're paying too much in income taxes. A lot of our clients are making, $600,000 a year, and we look at their taxes and we're going, you're paying,
600,000 of taxable income. Yeah. By the way, taxable income.
Taxable income. They're paying $250,000, sometimes $300,000 in taxes to the IRS. And here's the response that many of them are getting. The answer is no from their accountant. Okay, these are smart, intelligent people that are willing to take a risk as well, and they want to know what the options of things that they can do, such as how about just as a brief example of that, how about something like a specialty industry tax credit? Okay, what is that? Okay, well, there could be plenty of things that they could, like, for example, put their money into like a land trust as an example. And they've never been explained these things before. Now, that might not be for everybody, right? It's not a one size fits all solution, but some accountants don't have the courage to bring that up to their clients. So they have to have a desire to save money on their taxes, and then that moves them to number two of the equation, which is courage. They have to have the courage to move forward, the courage to trust JD Frost and Paul Croft, to do this type of business together. They have to have the courage that they're going to be contacted by their former accountant and say, this is scary, this is dangerous what you're doing.
Stay away, stay
away. And here's what I've always said, and I always will say, have that accountant put that in writing to you, and then let's talk about it. They typically won't ever put it in writing. And the way that I made a business of all this in my head is I said to myself, I don't want to be in competition with the safe accountant, because I don't, like, that's not a good business to be in. Like, they're going to be like, that guy's scary. Like, he does, like, that's not a good business to be in. What I wanted to be in is in a smart business to say, you know, if you're religious, okay, follow me with this, and you're a Christian, then your book of authority is the Bible. If you're a Muslim, your book of authority is the Quran. If you're a Mormon, your book of authority is, I believe, the Book of Mormon. My point being is that safe accountant, our stodgy accountant, isn't the book of authority to you, okay? And Paul Croft is not the book of authority to you either. And see, that's why I'm not in competition with a lot of the accountants out there, is because they don't have enough confidence to understand that and admit that. I'm not in business, I'm not in competition, because I'll do one of these, I'll say, hey, let's let the IRS determine what the right decision here is, okay? So you're going to bed with your previous model of taking someone's opinion on something, and you're overpaying in your income taxes. Okay, according to who? According to the IRS, not according to me. So let the IRS make that determination. And when I thought of it like that, I was like, oh my goodness, I have a really big business opportunity here, because there are a lot of people that are making great money in this country that are fed up with how much money they're paying in income taxes.
But the IRS has so many different interpretations. Everything is subjective. And so, to Paul's point, what he's talking about is that we are going to identify what works best within the code guidelines, what works best within those revenue procedures for your specific situation. And that's how we are using the jump method. That's how we are interpreting that for you and being the advocate for you, rather than relying on some CPA's opinion. That's what I hear all the time is, okay, yeah, well, my CPA said this. Well, how'd that CPA get that opinion? Oh, there you are. You back?
I'm back. I'm sorry. One of our offices in Minneapolis got hit with a COVID-19 situation. So we're kind of just makeshift trying to figure out internet passwords today. So I apologize.
No worries.
About the interference.
No worries. Keep going with what you were saying there. You were on a roll with the other CPA. I really liked how you were saying that. It's a great way to be.
Yeah. Right. Where I was basically saying that it doesn't mean that what I'm saying is the gospel, and what the other accountant doesn't have the courage or the confidence to admit, wearing his blue suit, white shirt, red tie, is that he's not been given a special license to speak the gospel either on taxes. It's his personal opinion. So take his personal opinion away and take my personal opinion away from it, and let's let the IRS determine who's right or wrong. And the way I looked at it is, I'm not in competition with Bob. That's just a made up name, by the way. Bob. I'm here to serve my client who's been being told no on his income taxes for way too long, and he or she has a burning desire, back to the desire model, to find a better way to do this, and a creativity, and they have courage to do this. And here's the reality: these people aren't going to do it because they have families, they have businesses, they have money on the line, unless it's a compliant and ethical and legal thing to do.
And that's where like I said, the top C, compliance, is the biggest and most important thing. And frankly, JD, that's what you bring to the business. And I really appreciate that about you.
Right, and the other part of the jump method, and the main aspect of the jump method that works so well is the fact that we have a conversation with the client. I mean, that's one thing that has been so apparent to me, is that when we have our expense call, we're going through a whole list of categories that most clients that we've interacted with, they say, I have never had this kind of conversation with a CPA before. I've never had anybody ask me these kinds of questions. And these questions, that 30 to 45-minute phone call saves you 30 to 40% on your taxes every year. 30 to 40% of the taxes that you're paying is what you are saving utilizing the jump method every year. And the beauty of it is this revenue procedure allows us to go back and amend prior year returns where you are literally finding money in your pocket. That's why we talked about this, how to find money in your pocket, like how to put it into your pocket from your business that already exists. And then you can use that money to then invest into your business and grow your business even more. And that's what I love about what you've done, Paul, over the years. And it took some time. It takes some time to understand this. But that's the part that I feel like that we bring to the table now, is this communication of, here is the jump method system. This is the method that you're going to use to start the business you never had, to start the lifestyle you never had, to finally take advantage of the tax code the way you need to, in order to put money back in your pocket.
Right. And JD, let me use this example. An example I came with. I don't talk about it too much, but I think it's a good example. I call it Johnny's Guitar Company. And I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this or not, but I use it every once in a while with clients on the phone. And what I say is that, you know, Johnny loves playing the guitar. Okay. So he has found a hobby that, because, okay, just for all the viewers, there's a big difference between a business and a hobby. And you can go Google that on Google. Just say,
there's nine factors that are the difference.
Yeah. So back to this Johnny's guitar, right? It's a very simple example. That's why I like using it. So Johnny starts strumming a guitar and starts playing, you know, every rose has a thorn. And he loves the guitar. Next thing you know, Pete's going through a divorce at work, and Pete is like, I need to do something to get my mind free. So John says, hey, Pete, why don't you come play guitars with me? All right. So Pete comes in. He's like, oh, Johnny, like, this is great. Like, I love this. Thank you so much. Okay. And then one other guy from work, his name is Mark. So Mark comes in and he starts playing the guitar. And this is just a simple hobby, right? You know, John's playing guitars, invites his friend Pete over, who's going through divorce. And then Pete invites Mark over. And now there's 3 people in this jam session, and they're driving Johnny's wife crazy at home, right? Because they're getting a little louder. Now, that's a hobby. Let's talk about Johnny's guitar business now. So Johnny, same scenario, but Johnny goes, hey, Pete, I know you're going through a divorce, and I'm really sorry to hear that. You know, one thing that's really helped me in my life is to find a hobby. So why don't you come try out the guitar? I have an extra guitar at home. Maybe you'll like it. Pete grabs the guitar, just loves it. He jams away on the guitar. So John has this idea. So Johnny starts a company. He actually goes on the IRS website, creates a company called Johnny's Guitar. He creates an EIN number. And then there's a little irony to this story, because Pete goes back to work. He's like, Mark, you've got to come over to John's house and play the guitar with us. So Pete asked John first, and here's what happens. John says to Pete, Mark can come over, but we're going to order Mark a guitar off of, the internet, like a Fender or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so Johnny gets on the phone with Mark and says, I can't wait for you to come over. Man, all I want is like $100 or $150 override, because I'm going to pick out your guitar for you. I know where to buy it from. I'm going to save you money. I want $150 for that work to do that. And I'm going to string your guitar for you, and I know what I'm doing. So all I want is $250. So I'm going to put an invoice together. What's a good email? I can email you an invoice. And I want you to pay the invoice for the $250 before you join the jam session, for 2 reasons. 1, I actually have a business, so that's the way I do things. But 2 is then I can justify that to my wife better of why I'm having some company over, and we're going to get a little loud. And what did Johnny's guitar business, and now according to the IRS, is now an actual business versus a hobby. And there's a clear difference there. Right.
And once you establish that difference, then you're able to take more business deductions relative to that business. And that's the part where we find out during that expense call. And that's where we're creating that value utilizing the jump method.
JD, there's so many people that are now working from home that are hungry and thirsty to learn what we're doing, because they're starting to realize that they can work from the comfort of their own home, and they really like it. They're not having somebody look over their shoulder all the time. And I think there's going to be a lot of businesses born in 2020 in the United States.
Yes, right. And that's what we are talking with clients all the time. And what we help do is we help create businesses. We help you understand the experience that you have, the education that you have, the skills that you have that are necessary to create a business around those skills, education, and experience.
Yeah, let's go back.
That's a key part of it.
Yeah, so let's just go back to the entrepreneur, right? That doesn't know better. That entrepreneur might be making a $600,000 W-2. I believe, JD, you and I would agree that that person has probably 14 or 15 years of experience in their profession, has at least a bachelor's degree, probably a master's degree, or, a school of hard knocks, which they'd be really humble that they've, took some on the chin and they've learned how to move onward in their life. But these people, with given this platform of how to start a business, how to become, I've talked to several mortgage advisors out there that they give a lot of free advice away on how to improve their credit score. Yes. And these are like consulting fees that they could be charging, in my opinion, of $100 to $200 an hour to consult someone and take out the highlighter and say, your credit score is a 590 and you want to buy that new home, that dream home with your wife. You need to improve your credit by, maybe it's 100 points in that example. And they can consult them on how to improve that credit score. And we can help them start a business on credit consulting services.
Yep.
It's just an example, but I get really passionate about this because there's a lot of people that say, no, you can't do that. Or no is always their favorite word.
Right.
And JD, I'll ask you the same question. If I stopped every time I heard the word no, or no, you can't do that. Would you be where you're at today if you stopped when you heard no?
Oh, no way. No chance. I answered it with no. Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible to get where you want to go if you listen to the word no. It's impossible to get where you want to go. You have to break through that wall. And I think that's another thing that that we're helping a lot of clients and what you help a lot of people understand. And that's your value. That's your vision that you bring to our companies is your ability to help people break through those walls, break through those barriers, create belief in themselves. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs don't have. They lack that belief. They lack that confidence. They lack that discipline. They lack the courage to move forward, to look through that windshield only. That's hard to do. That's a hard skill to learn. But man, if you can figure out how to just look through the windshield and keep moving onward all the time and not look back like the rhino, it's over.
I also think a lot about this, JD, that as you're talking is with hearing the word no and stuff like that is source of authority. Like, where do people get their source of authority for decision-making ability?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times people listen to their parents and their mom and dad, or my mom and dad told me not to do that. And this isn't, a debate whether or not you should listen to parents. Like, I love my mom and I love my dad. Okay. Like, I've listened to my parents, and that's why I've been able to get into the position I'm in my life. But there was a gift that my dad gave me when I was in primarily the life insurance business. I was about 24, 25 years old. My dad was a banker, and I called my dad and I said, Dad, what do you think about this? What do you think of a modified endowment contract, maxing out this life insurance contract? And oh my gosh, it's taxed as a FIFO instrument and first in, first out, and not a LIFO instrument. And, and on and on and on and on, and about, the tax-free benefits of it. My dad gave me a gift. He said, that must have been a sad day in his life, but if he was on this webinar right now, hopefully he would hear this, that hopefully was one of the best days in his life, because what he did was that probably pained him that day to admit to me at 25 years old that, honey, I would love to give you that advice and tell you what to do, but now you're beyond my scope or my expertise in that area. And here's what I'd recommend you to do. Go find 5 or 6 professionals that you know, like, and trust, that you believe are good role models for you in that industry, and go pick their brain on that and use the judgment and discernment to figure out what your path should be in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How many parents cannot do that and rob their children blind of a future? It's sad.
Right.
And
just by giving their own opinion without any facts, is what you're saying.
And without any facts or evidence.
Right.
And
right.
The best way to ask people that question is, okay, so your mom and dad have an opinion on that. Great. Where did they learn that information from? And what are they naturally going to say?
Right. Yeah.
From there, right? It's
right.
exciting. Okay. I always like to say, that can be one source of wisdom. Absolutely. But another source of wisdom is when you actually test the information that you've been provided. And that is wisdom. Mm-hmm. So remember what I said is I wasn't comfortable giving this as an opportunity to other entrepreneurs across the country until I truly tested it. I went through it on my own, and I actually went into my own IRS audit and was able to professionally defend my tax positions. And that is when I learned that this is actually an opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs out there.
Right. And you've got the experience to back it up.
Correct. So one last thing I said, so I mentioned there's 3 things people should really have when doing this. They've got to have the experience to do it. They've got to have the education to do it. and I'm missing something.
Skills.
Yes, thank you, JD. They've got to have the skills necessary to do the business.
Right, right. Because that's what part of the IRS is, that they're saying, hey, does this person have the ability? That's one of those 9 factors that we have down there in the chat box. Do you have the ability to carry out this business? Like, I can't just say I'm going to all of a sudden just start being a mortgage broker. I've never done that before. I don't have any experience, no education, no skills on that. And that's one thing that we help identify with you as the client. We help you identify and find that experience, that education, those skills in order to create this business that enables you to start and grow and reach the goals that you're trying to reach. So.
Well, and JD, I mean, thank you for all of the recognition on the jump method and coming up with this idea. You know, I appreciate that. But I got to be honest, you know, the jump method system, you added one word at the end, but that one word turned into 15 compliance items and a price point to get into the jump method system. And I believe that number is $25,000 as a starting point to get started on this, that I have to give you, you know, all the accolades for that. And also I was thinking I'd like to give my wife, Kirsty, a lot of recognition on this too, because you and I are, you know, we work hard during the week, and that phone call, I still remember, it was about 5.5, 6 hours on a Sunday, sketching out this very call that we're making today about the jump method system. So do you want to talk about all of the different, you know, the 15 different things that people would get if they sign up for the jump method system with Croft and Company?
Right. And so what we came up with was this actual system that allows you to identify and be in compliance with the 9 factors that we talked about that the IRS has identified. And most of those are developed around actually creating an entity. So the jump method system, we're creating an entity for you. We're applying for the articles of organization and with the state. We're creating that entity and completing it. We're creating an operating agreement for you. One other area is we are creating a business plan for you. We're actually helping you lay out how do I need to think about this business? How do I need to think about how I'm going to get revenue? How am I going to generate new customers? How am I going to advertise for my business? What is my business plan going to be? So that's a part of the 15 items. We're also, we're going to be creating a general ledger for you. One of the items that's 9 factors is you have to have books and records, adequate books and records in order to support and provide evidence for the facts and circumstances of you creating your business. So we help you with that part of it. We also will help you amend your prior year returns. Underneath that revenue procedure is the ability to go back in time and amend prior year returns. And that's where we create the value in which you're able to then invest that money that we put into your pocket, invest that money into your business, invest it in new relationships, invest it in new ways to advertise, invest it in order to grow your business. So when we are amending that return, we want to help you invest utilizing Rare Enterprises in website design, in logo design, in social media creation. All of this stuff is included in the jump method system and will help you launch your business, help you jump into your business.
And JD, I've been in those meetings with the IRS, and that's a very important thing to elaborate on. If you're not willing to invest in a business card or stationery or a logo for your business or a website, the IRS is going to go, what kind of business is this? Because they're going to say, if you're a business, you're going to want to invest in a brand and to make it come to life. That's, like JD said, that's one of the 9, maybe it's a couple actually, maybe that crosses JD. I think with an intent
Yeah.
to be profitable too.
Right, exactly.
You
And
know,
and those 9 factors, you don't have to pass every single one of them. It's just a matter of having some of them. It doesn't have to be every single one. And so that's on the IRS website. We've got a free download for you off of frostcpas.com/downloads. And so that is the jump method system. And we wanted to come up with this way for you to identify all these different steps to be able to see that this is a system that is proven and is not too good to be true. So
JD, I'd like to take a moment just to tell people that are watching this, like, who to contact and get more.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is tell us the best way to contact you or the team.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I'm happy providing my email, which is, I'll spell it out for you. It's paul@croftenterprisesllc.com. So that's CROFT and then enterprises with an S at the end, plural, followed by LLC.com. I will forward you to one of our senior vice presidents of business development who are very capable of helping you with these. Okay, so in no particular order, I'm gonna give those people some recognition. So first of all, I'll start with Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn is in our Chicago office. Ryan does a great job. He works with a lot of our why am I drawing a blank on medical device? There we go. Medical device and pharmaceutical sales, distributorships and business owners. Ryan does a great job with them. Doctors as well, because Ryan is very orderly in his communication. I'm going to jump to West Palm Beach, Florida, and Chelsea Missick. Chelsea is great to work with. Chelsea has a very empathetic tone in her voice. She has the desire to do a great job for her clients. Chelsea also has a close relationship with both JD Frost and I, but that's a really nice feature, is that she has some direct access to JD Frost. Let me go next to Brandon Carone. Brandon Carone is a very value-add guy. He comes from a hospitality background, understands restaurant businesses and coffee shops and juice shops. I know he's involved in some juice shops now in Chicago. So, Brandon cares a lot about his clients and getting them results. He wants to create a very unique experience for the client coming through, probably back from his hospitality days. So Brandon Carone out of Chicago, great option. Let's go to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Logan Vandergriff. Logan has a very nice energy and vibe about him. He's very close to JD Frost and has direct access to JD and myself. Logan is very involved in our sales team and is a great option for you to consider when going through the jump method as well. And again, in no particular order, Arnaldo Sanchez. Arnaldo is in our Minneapolis and Twin Cities office. Arnaldo, I always like to say, has good stature about him, and he's fluent in Spanish as well, so that really helps. But Arnaldo also doesn't get too high in his emotions and not too low in his emotions. He's very steady, and sometimes that can really help when you're dealing with very emotional issues with your money and taxes. So I think Arnaldo Sanchez is a very good option as well. So they're all good options. That's why they work with JD and I.
Yeah, and they are all listed on our website, www.thejumpmethod.com. We worked very hard on the website. We'd love for you to go visit that if you're curious about any part of the Jump Method. Everything is there. You have the options to book an appointment with any of those senior vice presidents. And that is the best way to get started, is to start having a conversation, because conversations are free. They're free. And it's the best way for us to be able to review your prior returns. We can tell you exactly what we believe you will be able to get back. And we've seen so many of these tax returns. We've seen so many different scenarios, and we've utilized this strategy so many times. We're getting really, really good at giving you a good estimate. So that's going to help you identify those options.
What's that website again, JD, just for the viewers?
www.thejumpmethod.com. Thejumpmethod.com. Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it. We're coming up on a little bit over an hour. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man and probably have a million phone calls to make and everything. So I really appreciate you, man, as a partner, as a friend, mostly. And man, it's been so much fun working with you so far. And I want to encourage anybody watching this webinar. You want to get around somebody who's going to give you courage, who's going to help you take a risk, who's going to give you the support that you need to do things that you never thought were possible. You need to get around this guy, Paul. You need to follow him on Instagram at TheRealPolicy819.
You got it.
Boom, boom, at TheRealPolicy819. His story is so interesting and, you know, completely different feel than I've been following other people. And so I just really appreciate you, Paul. Thanks for coming on. And dude, I'm so excited that we finally made this merger official. And here we go, right?
Thank you, JD. Yeah,
thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Go check out that website, www.thejumpmethod.com.